In a time long ago, there was a village called Ijila. It was a strange place with a mysterious curse that lingered over its people. The women of Ijila, both young and old, carried a strange mark, arms that did not hang down like others but lifted at shoulder height, as if frozen in pride or defiance. We can call this bow arms just like bow legs. This mysterious caste also extended to visitors who dwelled in the land of Ijila. For example, the pioneer principal of Ijila High School was a British lady, Miss Margaret. She was popularly known and addressed as Mrs. Mag. She lived with her family in Ijila before she left to the state after her retirement. But she was married to her husband, Dr. Watt, in the state, and they had a boy and girl in the state before they relocated to Ijila for education/mission settlement. In Ijila, they were blessed with another beautiful baby girl. The baby took after her parents in all features except her arms. They weren't straight. She had bow arms at birth. This was not just a mere coincidence. Teachers and workers who lived in Ijila also had these mysterious marks in their families. The story had it too that who suspected that the land could be responsible for the bow arms left immediately with their families and settled in another community had other daughters in that community with normal arms. This wasn't a minor oddity. These hanging arms, as they were called, were seen as unnatural, and it made the women not attracted and less desirable to men from other places. The curse cast a shadow over every girl born in Ijila, leading many women to remain unmarried or to marry within the village only, where their fate was understood and reluctantly accepted. But the curse had an even darker side. It turned out that giving birth to a girl child was dangerous and often deadly. The women endured excruciating pain, as if the very arms of their daughters resisted birth. Many died in childbirth, fighting to bring daughters with hanging arms into the world. Over time, mothers who could afford it resorted to cesarean sections to safely deliver their daughters. Yet, even with this relief, the stigma remained, and fear lingered. This was a curse that affected every family, every home, every life in Ijila. I mean every family in Ijila, because the men too are not spared. Because women from other communities started rejecting the men from Ijila for marriage reasons, many women were dying from childbirth when they tried to give birth to baby girls who would come with hanging arms and shoulder. Birthing them were the most difficult thing and painful labor. It is worthy of note that Ijila had a neighboring village called Ochola. These two villages shared a common boundary. In fact, it was said that Ijila and Ochola were two brothers from the same mother who came to settle down the river after communal war between their clan and another clan stronger than them. Both brothers were fishermen. Lives in Ochola were bubbling with peasantries. The same too was happening in Ijila, except the ugly birthmarks for their girls. But people started moving to Ochola for settlement, especially the visitors and the investors. And soon Ijila, a once great town, began to look like a dismissed market. Their sons found greener pasture in the far-away land and began to migrate, leaving their aged mothers, fathers, the weak and the bow-arms daughters of the land. One year, the village head and the elders of Ijila declared that every son and daughter of Ijila had to return home for a grand celebration, for a reunion. It was tagged Mass Return. News spread quickly, and soon, all the families of Ijila, those who had moved away and those who remained, gathered for the festival. It was the largest gathering the village had seen in years, and excitement was high. There were feasts, songs, dances, and reunions. As the evening celebrations grew, a visitor stepped forward, an invited seer, a man known for his wisdom and the power to see into hidden things. His eyes seemed to pierce through the crowd as he began to speak.
I see sorrow, a restless spirit, and a great sin buried deep in the earth,
he said, his voice heavy with mystery. The villagers fell silent, and a strange unease settled over them.
This curse, these hanging arms, they are not of nature. They are the result of a wrong done long ago.
The villagers shifted nervously, unsure of what he was about to reveal. The seer took a deep breath and continued.
Your ancestor, Ijila himself, was once a powerful man. He ruled with pride, and he had little mercy in his heart. One day, he did something unforgivable.
The people murmured, tension rising like the smoke from their evening fires. Ijila had a younger brother named Ochola, the seer continued, his voice dropping to a haunting whisper.
Ochola was blessed with one daughter, a sweet, innocent child. But she became the target of Ijila's jealousy and anger. He sought for means to carry out his evil intention. They kept failing him until the day she was to get married. He ambushed her at the river path where she went to fetch the water for her suitor as the custom demanded. So, in a terrible fit of rage, Ijila buried the child alive.
Gasps echoed across the crowd. The elders looked down, their faces clouded with guilt.
While the girl was struggling to breathe, her small hands reached upward, grasping for freedom, for mercy. But her uncle, Ijila, covered her with earth, pressing down harder and harder until the only thing that remained of her were her small hands, buried upward. Her spirit cast all daughters of Ijila from that day forward.
The villagers sat in silence, absorbing the horror of the story. They could feel the presence of the lost child in the air around them, in the chill of the night wind. But there is a way to lift this curse, the seer said, breaking the silence.
To free yourselves, you must find her remains. The spirit of the girl must be reunited with her father, Ochola, who died in despair, searching for his missing daughter. Her spirit cannot rest until she is given a proper burial by her family, honored and loved as she was in life.
The seer's words left the villagers in a state of confusion and fear. They realized the weight of the task ahead. How could they find the remains of the girl who had been lost so long ago? The villagers exchanged worried glances, whispering to one another. Some shook their heads, while others wiped away tears as they thought of the suffering that had plagued their daughters for generations. From that day, the village was thrown into chaos. People searched every corner of the land, every field, every grove, looking for a sign of the child's resting place. Days turned to weeks, but there was no sign of her. Frustration and despair began to build.